Hey guys, it's Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Welcome to another episode of Every Victim Deserves Justice. This is the third episode in my series on Courtney Heater. Courtney was an athletic, beautiful young woman whose life ended too early. In this episode, we will be covering how her mother was baited into an altercation with Courtney. Courtney baited her mother into this altercation so she could go back to North Carolina. I personally believe, and so does her mother, that she did this to save Debbie and her son's life. Because I believe she was being threatened that if she didn't come back, there would be retaliation. And that is heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. It's heartbreaking that Courtney felt that she had to go back into an abusive relationship to save their lives. It might have been Courtney's final act of love to her family. In this episode, we talk about how heartbreaking it was for Debbie to go to North Carolina and claim her daughter and bring her home. What it was like to find out that her body was bruised from head to toe, because at this point, she still didn't know what had happened to her daughter. And what it was like to sit there and be in the room with the man you suspected might have had a lot to do with your daughter's death. Please watch this, and please take heed of Courtney's story. Don't stay in an abusive relationship. You do not want to end up where Courtney did. You do not want your family to be going through what Debbie is going through. And you don't want to have your family have to fight for justice when they should be grieving your death. Because every victim deserves justice. And Courtney Heater deserves justice.
So my son tells me that the whole day he's calling her, and they're talking all day long. She never unpacks the truck from her things. So she was real snippy and snappy and rude and ignorant, and that's not Courtney. It's crabby one thing, but this is mean. She's being real mean. And she proceeds to be even more rude. And I've had it. And I said, you know what? Why are you like this? This isn't right. And she says, don't you know, I don't really want to be here. And I said, I'm sorry. I'll get your room cleaned out from stuff in there. You haven't been home for quite a few years. I don't want to stay here. I'm not going to get comfortable here. I'm only going to be here long enough to buy a car and go back. Well, this isn't what we talked about.
Yeah.
This was the end of him and her. Now it's changed again. And this is what she warned me of, that I have to be stronger. But now we're home and she should be stronger. No, it's because he's been filling her head full of something. She was totally different. She was awful. And she says how she doesn't like the tone of my voice, doesn't like the sound of my voice, doesn't want to be here. The house smells like pets. Anything she could say to criticize me, she knows it's going to hurt me. And this is her home. She says she just said to me the week before, it's so good to be home. I love being home. It always smells so nice in here. I love all these warmers you get for the freshener. Everything. It's so good to have regular food again, and her favorite foods I made. Just, it wasn't her.
Yeah.
So she says a really nasty thing to me, and I thought I didn't hear right. I come down and we have an altercation, and she picked a fight with me to leave. And I was shocked. It didn't make sense how she was. But now, knowing after she died, she had PTSD from him and the abuse, because she was physical with me and saying things that didn't make sense to me. We didn't have that kind of relationship. We never have.
Yeah. What was she saying?
With every punch that she punched me in the face, that I won't punch her again. I won't hit her again. I won't hurt her again. She doesn't have to listen to what I say. I will, and just like a random, like a record player, the same words over and over.
Yeah.
And I'm in shock. I can't even fight back because it's still shocking to this day. Went upstairs where she went up to her room, and I confront her again, and it happens again. And I don't even know who she is, because this isn't Courtney. I mean, we could have been stabbing each other, and we wouldn't talk this way ever. I mean, it was not her.
Yeah.
She's always very grateful and courteous. Everyone's always said she's so polite. My kids are very polite. Even when they don't want to do something, someone asks, they're polite. They eat foods they don't like to eat. It's just the way I raised them, the way I was raised. But it was physical between us, and I asked her to leave. She didn't want to leave. And she proceeded to say more mean things. And it was another altercation all over again. She had to leave, and she did. And as soon as she did, I didn't let her take Harley with, because Harley was back home. She was very upset about that. Very upset about, she had a new kitten then she brought with too. I wouldn't let her take any of that. I wouldn't even let her take her things, because the plan was not to let her go again. I just got her home. I just got off of work. I even had 24 hours. I didn't even get a chance to celebrate. We had all these things to do because she just got home.
Why do you think she instigated this fight with you guys?
At the time, I didn't know, but I was told from someone who knew her very well, and also confirmed with other people that have had relationships with him, as he threatened her that something would happen to me and her brother, and that she needed to come home. And he was always very good, including letting me know how he's going to get even with me, even before this altercation, if I didn't do something that he thought was right. Always threatening me. And that's what they do, this family. They do it to each other. So he had to pull her back because he needed her. And he was going to champion her to show how loyal he is to her. After that, with this ass-kissing love bombing. And she did it to save us. And as bulletproof as she thought she was, she figured she could handle it. I'm sure, I know her enough, and make her own escape, and then it would be okay. But on the way home, driving home from out there, bringing her home, she told me, and I didn't understand quite what she meant, but now I do, is that when he finds out, Mom, he's not going to be happy. We're going to have to get cameras and an order of protection. I says, he lives all the way out there. Who cares? And she says, no, when he finds out. And she kept saying, when he finds out, he finds out. And I says, he already knows. I'm under the impression she broke up with him.
Yeah.
And we're going to work out getting this other stuff. And nothing was discussed in front of me. I don't know anything different. Now I know different is that when you leave, that's when you're the most vulnerable to be killed from an abusive, violent relationship.
Yep.
And now it's proven she left. And she left things behind to make it look good. But I mean, she's jumped out of cars getting away. He's pushed her out of cars. He's left her at bars in North Myrtle Beach. I've had to call the police from Illinois out there to go find my daughter. When she left here, I knew that she was going to die out there, because I can't check her. And I lost my first husband, not her father. He died. He was electrocuted at 24. I told Courtney, I won't make it this happens again. She was 24 when she was murdered. She got mad at me when I said that. Mom, don't you think more of me? Don't you think I'm smarter than that? I said, it wasn't planned that he was electrocuted. He was working.
That's the thing about abuse. It doesn't matter how tough you are, how smart you are.
Nope.
That
Where you come from
breaks you down. That's part of the abuse. They break you down so you second guess yourself. You become dependent on them. And like I said, it doesn't matter how smart or tough she was. She became somebody that it wasn't her anymore. She became, like you said before, a shell of herself.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to get to the tough part of this story, even though the rest of the story has been really, really heavy. But we're going to get to her death, what happened, and there's a lot that we don't know because can't get the truth from her boyfriend. But why don't you tell me what day it was and what happened, and we can go into more detail than what we told last time.
The day she died was Super Bowl Sunday, February 2nd of 2020. She was pronounced dead at 4:04. And I'll go from midnight. And again, I don't know a lot because I haven't been told a lot, and his story has changed 9 different times now to this day. I was told that his father told me that, and I've seen this someplace, I don't remember which report because the story's changed so much, that at midnight she was having trouble breathing. And anyway, of course, she's very sick. Even in the autopsy, it says that she has pulmonary edema, and I remember offhand, but pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
From the
and also she was on medicine for, like, she was on diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl, so she's probably taking that to help her get better.
Yes, and you have to remember with the broken ribs, she can't cough anything up, and these are low. These are very low. This is where you get your gut to cough. You don't cough from up here. You cough from down by your belly.
Yeah, because that's where the diaphragm is.
Yep. So, and all she is Benadryl, which is unacceptable because I have very good insurance. There's no deductible. There's no copay. And she always used the insurance. And with the assault, she wasn't allowed to go to the emergency room except on her own. And he didn't take her because he would have been arrested. That's an assault. They should have been prosecuted. Now here he is a few months later, and she's even worse than she was in September. With each assault that was portrayed on her, since I've seen the documentation, it's progressed. Yeah. It's progressed. And the reason for the progression is that there's the struggle of the drugs. It's her between him and the drugs, and she's holding the fort. It's getting harder, and when you take those kind of drugs, you're stronger. And Courtney's a very strong person. But here, she's really sick this day, and she's not allowed to go to the doctor. And untreated broken ribs at this point, needs an antibiotic. And she can't go. I know she can't go. They're going to see the broken ribs, and they're going to know, here you go. Here's another assault from that same person.
Yeah.
And he probably knows at this time, she's going to tell him. She's not going to cover it up anymore for him like she's been doing, or somebody else is going to speak up.
I do want to say something about the broken ribs and her pneumonia. From working on another case, I know that if you get hit in your ribs or your lung area, which does include the ribs, that
Yeah.
can cause pneumonia.
Yes.
So that's probably why she got sick anyway.
Yes. She wasn't sick on her own. And on top of this all, from the condition that is caused from him, because she didn't do this to herself, is that she has asthma.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, she's had it. You look on any of her photos playing rugby, she's playing rugby holding an inhaler in her right hand. So her breathing's pretty bad.
And when you have pneumonia and asthma, it gets pretty bad. I have severe asthma, and I've had pneumonia and with my asthma, and I have a nebulizer. So when I get sick, I can treat myself a little bit at home, but when it gets to that point where she was, you got to go to the hospital and get on prednisone or
Yes.
something in the prednisone family and an antibiotic.
Yes. And Courtney, when she was younger, had a nebulizer, so she knows what to do.
Yeah.
And when that's not around, you take a hot shower, you break things up, you get coughing, but she couldn't. So her having trouble breathing is pretty significant. Instead, they go to sleep. And he says nothing was unusual was happening, just she can't breathe. I guess that's not nothing unusual, but it is for Courtney. So not till 3:30, 3:32 to be exact, is an ambulance called, because he says it in the 911 call, which is, he's a great actor, and someone who's given CPR doesn't boo-hoo, fake, and doesn't shut up. In order to give CPR, you have to blow in them. And these broken ribs aren't from CPR, because I'm sure a lot of your viewers are thinking, oh, you can get broken ribs from CPR. This is the 5th and 6th rib. This is the end of the ribs. These are the most thick, non-bending ribs, and you don't give CPR below the, your sternum, and that's the hard center that connects the ribs. These other ribs, and she's 24, so breaking ribs on a 24-year-old isn't really that common as someone older breaking their ribs. And the ribs up here are easier to break than the lower ribs, because that's the end of the rib cage from what I've learned. So he claims that, but it depends which report you look at, because of course he's never given a statement. And he's the only person there at the time of her death.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've been told out here in law enforcement, and with our district attorney and other people I've ran into in the law enforcement, is that even when somebody is hanging and it's a suicide, and there's a suicide note, and there's a person standing there or a next of kin, they make a statement. They have to be questioned.
Yeah.
In this case, no, I don't know if she had breakfast, lunch, or dinner, how long she's been sick, nothing. So he says in there that she can't breathe, and she spit up on him, but he says she aspirated on him. And that's not really a common word that you hear from people when they spit up, throw up, vomit. The next sentence, soon after that, when he brings up again, he says vomit. And he says that she woke him up by doing that she rolled out of bed and turned blue and laying on the floor. There's another story that he got up and saw her in the bathroom, and he was urinating and saw her in the bathroom, walked out of the bathroom, went into the hallway, which are very next door to each other, and she is laying in her vomit and turned blue, and her lips are blue. There's blood coming out of her mouth. So then there's another story that she slid off the bed, walked to the bathroom, hit the wall, and was laying in the bath. I think they say she's laying in the bathroom. I think she comes back to the hallway again. There's a lot going on here with where she is. I never seen someone who turned blue who's able to do so much movement, because usually turning blue, you're losing oxygen. You don't really have much. And yet when the 911 call is going on, the sheriff, or I'm sorry, I think it's the ER, the EMT say that she has a pulse. So how can she have a pulse if she's blue? She's not dead.
I do know what, like when with my oxygen is really low, my lips turn like a purpley blue, but not like blue, not like blue where you could tell that that person is not breathing.
Well, he says in the 911 call, she's not breathing.
Yeah.
But yet she got out of bed and zoom, zoom, zoom. She's blue out of bed, and all that happened that fast. But yet the 911 caller doesn't even ask him if he knows how to give CPR. She assumes. And then she also is concerned about what poor Julian's going through with all the stress of trying to deal with this horrific scene that he's not even helping with. And should we call your mommy and daddy? And he proceeds to go off with the phone number of each one of them. And they stop everything to call his parents. Never do they ask, does Courtney have parents? Where's her parents? She's the one that's dying, not Julian. Julian's just walking around, and you could hear it in the 911 call. He's walking around doing things. He's close to the phone, far from the phone. From everything I can put in my head, that he's not giving CPR because his mouth never stays shut enough to breathe a breath into her. Because she even says, "Are you sure you're giving CPR, Julian?"
Julian, you there? Okay. She's not responding, Annie? Okay, keep doing CPR. How are you breathing in her if you're hollering? You got to breathe for her.
She talks to him like she knows him. And then soon after, she talks about the parents and is trying to soothe him by getting his poor parents there so he's not stressed, not worried about me again or Courtney's parents. She calls out his sister's name by name, full name. And it's not just one first name you guess. It's 3 names, a first, a middle, and another middle. She's got 3 names without her last name being included. Who knows that?
Yeah.
I mean,
I when I listened to the 911, I felt like they knew each other.
yeah.
It felt like the operator and him knew each other.
The whole thing sounds like I'm at a play and I'm seeing a performance, because nobody screams like that. He should have tried to make it sound more real and breathed into her and shut his mouth for a while, but he never breathed into her. First thing is, she's got blood on her mouth. He would have had blood on his. There's nothing looked at that. But of course, they don't take a statement. They don't look to see if he's got any defensive wounds on him from the altercation that they had. It doesn't make any sense. They ask him on there 3 times, does she do drugs? He says no. He says he doesn't know her medication, but then the next line after it, he says she takes Adderall. But yet they don't find any of her medications. They don't find the Adderall. They don't find the drugs that's in her either. That's kind of amazing, because where is all that? You know, why would the Adderall not be there? And it's not in her system either. And why is the other medication, including the Benadryl, not there? There's Benadryl in her system. Where is it? You know, yeah, maybe one of them, it could be the end of it, but no, Courtney just had 2 prescriptions filled. They should have been there. Where are they? What did he do with them? The thing that strikes me the most is the word aspirated. I have medical background. I went to become a medical assistant. That's just not a word that somebody uses. And it sounds like that's what they rehearsed, because the next line after it, he says that she threw up or vomited. I can't remember which. He calls her name over, I don't even know how many times, but yet when she is pronounced dead from there, she's checked into the hospital after pronounced dead on the way in the ambulance as a Jane Doe. I'm not notified for 6 hours that she's deceased. The nurse on this report, the medical examiner report, states Tara, I don't know her last name, RN, it says on there, notified her mother, my name, Debbie Heater, in Chicago. I've never talked to her. I don't even know who she is, and I don't live in Chicago. She lied. She never notified me. Nobody notified me but the medical examiner. No police, no sheriff, nothing, but we're worried about the stress that Julian's going through with his parents and the stress he's going through, the poor thing. I'm sorry to be so sarcastic, but I find that appalling that no one ever through this whole entire thing gave a damn about Courtney. Here, he knows her medical condition. He's been to the hospital numerous times because her cyst in her brain from her brain surgery from high school has to be monitored every year with a CT scan. He's called me himself while she's been at the hospital, asked me about it. Courtney has no problem telling anybody that knows her about this so they can look for signs in case something happens. Because when that happens, it blows up and she can actually feel her skull, her brain hitting her skull. It's almost like encephalitis. And where the cyst is, and they try to move, she had bleeding on the brain, so they had to leave it and deflate it. It stops the fluid of her spinal cord from circulating. And that's the reason for the headache. It's very bad. And this, they feel that she was born with this and it's grown. This is very serious. So even to say, I don't know her medical condition, I don't know any medication she takes, and then say Adderall when he knows about us. She has, now remember, she has no phone, no car, no money. Where's this coming from? She's never had a car out there. He claims that her phone has been missing, but the medical examiner sees it there and nobody takes it. So he has it. And the phone that he's using on the report belongs to Courtney, along with the 2 Apple Watches. Those are missing too. And he has it. So that's all Courtney's property. Courtney wasn't allowed to always use her phone. She would use both phones because she had to share the one he carried so that she didn't call anyone and cheat on him while they're together. But and there's proof to that.
I want to go back to something. The police showed up first, right, to the scene?
Yes, during the 911 call.
Do not stop CPR until somebody gets there. We got rescue and law enforcement coming to help you. Yes, ma'am. Kiddo 7 said the wrong thing. Julian. I got 2 officers in there.
Okay.
But yet, when I met with them, they said that they weren't there. They missed Courtney. Courtney was already on their way to the morgue, the medical, to the hospital. And I had that on recording. And so did they. And they said they weren't there, but they're there.
The only reason the report was taken is because the officer was nearby. And he seen the ambulance going and asked him what was going on and went up there himself. We were never dispatched to there. So
well, I disagree.
All run by the medical examiner.
I disagree because there was 3 investigators there. And Amy?
They went after. I'm talking about the initial call now.
And according to the 911 call, because when you have a 911 call, you have an audio and you have a report of a timeline of where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time I've seen this. You can get a redacted copy where all the personal information is taken out. But because of the subpoena, I was able to get both the real and the unredacted copy and the 911 call. And I had a hard time getting this 911 call, and now I see why. There's another part that's alarming is, I don't know if any of your followers have ever called 911, but if you hang up on 911, they call you back and they want to know why. And you can actually get in trouble for calling them by mistake, unless it's an honest mistake, but calling and hanging up, it's taking time away from saving somebody else's life. In the call, Julian's talking and boo-hooing all over, and then he hangs up. And they don't call him back. He calls them back, and then he's not answering them. And he's nowhere near that phone. So he must have dialed it back and he had to do something because now time is ticking and they're going to be coming.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense. So they get him on the phone. And this is where you hear the most movement. He is not breathing. When you're breathing next to your loved one that you love, this is supposed to be the love of his life. The woman, and I have a recording of, he says he wants her to be Mrs. Phipps. He wants her to be his wife. He names out his name. And that makes her so happy, you can tell, because she responds so. He's not even, you'd want to save that person's life and you have the phone right next to you so you don't miss any part of the directions of what to do. I don't know about you, but sometimes it's hard for me to remember my own son's phone number, and I picked his phone number that he has, and he's had his whole life. To rattle off those phone numbers so clear, and I don't know if you notice when you listen to the recording, he's right there at the phone giving those phone numbers to his parents. That's pretty clear that he's been the whole time when he's supposed to be saving the love of his life. He lies and says that he doesn't know her medical condition, which he does. He lies about medication, and he lies about an overdose. He says that she's not a drug user.
Was she on drugs? Did she take any drugs?
But yet, he could have saved her life by being honest. Where's the Narcan? Now, from the paperwork it says, and you saw it says cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, a cardiac arrest. But yet, the sheriff's department, since the moment that happened, has called it a drug overdose for that moment and many months on. And the reason I know that is because they were reporting to the court that he was fighting for custody of his son, and they're calling it a drug overdose. And I'm mad because we haven't even got the toxicology. We're not going to get this toxicology till August. And I'm having many conversations with Chief Aaron Herring, of the Columbus County Sheriff's Department, telling me I need to get off this and it's a drug overdose. And he tells me himself that the medical examiner's lying, and they have the report. She overdosed, and this is only a month, I think it is, after she died, a month or two after she died. I called the medical examiner and tell him that, and they says, no, he's lying. We don't have it back yet. We don't know what she died of. And this is during COVID.
Yeah.
So it took a long time to get an overdose autopsy done, which is weird.
Yeah, sometimes toxicology takes a while to get back though, but it's weird how long it takes to get back.
It does. And
if they felt it was an overdose and it seemed like it on the phone, that's what she was, that's why she's saying, what did she take? Did she take anything?
You sure she doesn't do drugs?
They should have, the police officers, because police officers nowadays have Narcan. They should have administered Narcan to her. And if she wasn't overdosed, it wouldn't have hurt her. The only way it's going to hurt somebody is if they're allergic to the drug. And that's very, it's not common. So
no,
if they were thought she was, because even when I don't know if it's the police or the EMT saying, what did she take? What drug, where are her drugs? Did she take anything? They thought walking into that scene that she took something. So why wasn't Narcan administered by the police officers who arrived there? That's a question I had.
And I totally agree with you, but I know for a fact, because Courtney was trained by that family to administer Narcan to the boyfriend, because she was supposed to be the wall between him getting drugs and saving his life. They trained her. Narcan by accident always in that house. So why didn't he get it? He's been around overdoses with his sister and his cousin. The sister's alive, the cousin's dead. His father's sister's child. So this isn't something that's new to him that should be freaking him out. This is something he's been very accustomed to. And who knows how many other people he's he's seen. But he knows exactly what's happening because he's been around this. He himself has been overdosed and saved, but yet my daughter is not given this, and he waits to call, and Sherry had trouble breathing at 12 o'clock at night, and now it's 3:32, and they're not even there till 1:45, which is very, very alarming, very alarming. From the month after I believe she died, when I'm talking to Aaron Herring, the chief deputy, about he's saying it's an overdose. He's the one that tells me her hair's wet. And it doesn't state that anywhere else. And he says to me, well, she probably hit her head because she was taking a bath. And I says, how do you know she was taking, well, her hair was wet. He says, she probably was taking a bath. And he tells me she was found in the bathroom. But he doesn't tell you the story. And Aaron Herring wasn't there.
Yeah. And also the report says she was in the hallway.
Yeah. But he told me that she was in the bathroom and her hair was wet.
And there's also blood in the bathroom also, isn't there?
On the wall. Nothing, no pictures. Again, I don't know if I mentioned to your followers is that not one crime scene photo has been taken. No diagram. All this moving around in there. No statement from the boyfriend. Nothing. I mean, and this is also a state that's prosecuting that new law for selling, giving drugs, and yet no investigation, nothing. In fact, one of the detectives is this Amy Pollard, I believe, if I'm saying it right now. I don't have it in front of me. She refused to talk to me after the first time to tell me because I was questioning her too much. I don't understand why I'm not allowed to ask questions. I'm not allowed to do anything there. I'm not allowed to see the crime scene, nothing. Also, when I got down there, she died on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, very early in the morning, and she loves football. But anyway, so I'm coming down there to get my daughter, and I'm flying out there, and I got to bring her home, and I've never done this before, and I have to bring her things home, and her brother and I, my son Austin, we go to get her. We fly down there together, and we get there Saturday. Of course, I explained to the family, the boyfriend's family, because the boyfriend has never to this day talked to me about what happened. He's never addressed me, explained nothing. It just kept my things, my daughter's things. My daughter had some of my things because we were very close. She would wear some of my things. I had some of hers. It was a way of keeping us connected and close. And she was proud of me, and I was proud of her. So what a great thing is that we came in and we got there late. There was a lot of complications at the airport, and plus it's 3 hours from the airport, and no one offered to even pick us up, and it's very hard to rent a car there. The whole thing is just not like where I'm from. This is the sticks. So by the time we go straight to the funeral home, Peacock Funeral Home in Whiteville, North Carolina. I knew I had to bring her home, so she was going to have to be cremated. I didn't want to put her in the bottom of a plane, and I didn't want to get her out of my sight again. I had to be there, and I was told that I could be able to view her being cremated, so I know that those ashes are really hers, but they changed that all last minute. So I called them because they asked if they could, if Julie could say goodbye to her. And that really didn't sit well in my stomach, and it
Yeah.
really angered her brother. We discussed it, and I said I'm doing this for her because at this time I'm still thinking that there's probably was an altercation. I haven't seen her yet. And they probably got into a fight, and he pushed her by this big fireplace I seen, and probably had a brain aneurysm. And that's what I've been picturing. So they bring her out, and she's on this flat table with a quilt over her. And I right away see the clothes they put her in. It's not the clothes we discussed. And I discussed with the boyfriend's father specifically, not only discussed, but also put it in text that she is to be with her favorite dress that she wears at church, her black tights, and her suede little booties. And to have her cross on her, and to have the Pandora ring that I gave her. So she be prepared to see God. When I get there, she's in a blank romper, and I'm not sure if you guys know what a romper is. It's a one-piece shorts outfit with black suede leopard stiletto heels. Courtney has never worn heels in her life. And these, I believe, they look like 5-inch heels. It's unnerving that she has it. She's got a heart tarnished necklace on that's gold, and she doesn't wear gold. I pull the blanket off far enough to see that her shins are riddled with all kinds of bruising at different stages of healing. And with the romper, that's one piece. I can't get it up higher. I see defensive marks on her hands. I see a tire mark on her left ankle. My daughter does not look like herself. She doesn't look 24. She looks like me. She looks old. And there's marks all over her face. There's bruising, there's cut marks, her hairline's been pulled. And then they disgrace her further by not dressing her in proper clothing. And I hear from the boyfriend's father when I question it that once they got there is that that's what she wore to church all the time. And she went to church with them all the time. It was pretty upsetting. So they all get there, and of course, he does not even look at her or say her name. And this will go on for a couple years, a year and a half. He does never say her name. The few times I hear him speak, he calls her my daughter. She no longer has a name. He brings her nothing, not even a picture for her to be cremated with. They know she's going to be cremated. And by the way, I heard from the medical examiner, he was trying to claim her body after she died. And I was lucky that he caught on that they weren't married, and otherwise the body would have been released. But that again would have been after 6 hours of sitting in the morgue as a Jane Doe until he got to the hospital with his parents and decided, I know who she is now. And by the way, I think she overdosed. And backing up to that is that would have been a safe place now to announce that she overdosed, but because he's announcing all during the procedure, because she might come back to life. They're working on her. They got paddles on her. They got a pulse. So could you imagine if she came back from that, what would have happened to him? If he would announce then it's an overdose and it comes back and she comes back, that's murder, attempted murder. Now he's gonna wait it out and see what happens, but he's not gonna let them revive her, because if he would have said it's an overdose, I know I was there, they could have saved her even more. He's hoping they figure it out and time passes by and she's deceased. And that worked out to his favor. So now he announces after 6 hours, it came to him that it's an overdose. He thinks she overdosed, and now he knows who she is. Not one tear from anyone except the mom. The mom cried. Now that I remember, she did cry. She apologized. It hit me at that moment that I'm never going to be able to save my daughter. Now I am the mother of a single child. I no longer have 2 children. So that was pretty hard because it hit me at that moment. And it's a long, skinny room. The boyfriend sat all the way in the back corner as far as he could, never looked at her, never touched her, never brought a photograph for her to be cremated with, never anything at all. And she died horrifically, and yet he brings nothing. That's pretty shocking to me. They left, and I had the director leave the room, and I started taking pictures of what I could on her. And that's when I got pictures. If anyone ever goes through this, I don't know why I felt this way, but I felt that I had to hide the fact that I wanted to take pictures to document the condition of her body, that I had to get the person out of there. I don't know why. I can't be the only one that thought that way. I don't know why we do, but people need to pay very close attention to what I'm saying if this happens to them. They need to not at all think about anybody, but they need to document and not care about. And I don't know why that's ingrained in some people or all people, but it was in me, and it was inside my son, that we had to divert the person away to document this. I guess I was worried about that I was going to make it look like they did something, and I wasn't sure it did. And maybe that's what it was. But you need to document. You need to do whatever you can. Please learn from my mistakes. And I wish I would have cut that romper off her, because later in the autopsy, I'm going to find out there's more damage to her body that I would not have seen. I'm just amazed that after this is done, they announced to me in Austin that they're going to dinner and we'll see you later. And that was it. I couldn't even speak. In one of the reports, it says Courtney's naked and in the hallway, and the sheriff, who wasn't supposed to be there, but it's documented there, but the sheriff says they weren't there. They tell the boyfriend to cover her up because she's naked. And I feel the reason she's naked is because this is all to distract. And well, anyway,
and I hate to say, and that's kind of a no-no for, I understand why he did it, because I mean, you don't, it's a modesty thing, but that takes transfer. You're you could transfer some of the, if there's DNA on her, all that other stuff. So that's he technically shouldn't have done that, because.
No, and this is the sheriff telling him.
Yeah.
Not only that, they don't test the vomit that she's laying in, it's all over her hair in the autopsy photos. That could have been his vomit. I mean, here he's supposedly giving her CPR. Shouldn't he have also got that fentanyl and heroin on his lips? She's bleeding at the mouth, and shouldn't he been intoxicated from it? This is pretty potent stuff. This is a poison. It is a poison, and they didn't know that. But shouldn't the boyfriend have that too? And shouldn't that have been tested? Shouldn't the blood in the bathroom been at least photographed, tested, something? So this is a really important part, is that I then compare all the reports in a row, and I find out that when the medical examiner got her, she's wearing the black t-shirt that was draped over her to cover her, that the Columbus County Sheriff's Department said to cover her with. So now she's dressed.
Yeah, that's weird.
And guess what? I don't get that t-shirt It disappears. Also, the multicolored towel disappears, and she's got one earring.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. The earring was weird. Like,
Yes. So she's got a pierced belly button. Is it from there? They don't say. But Courtney has very small gauges in, and Courtney has wears a couple of earrings in each ear. Where are those? Courtney never took out those gauges.
yeah.
But it's funny, I have seen them again. Guess where they are? In the ears of the boyfriend.
So we're gonna end this conversation right here.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody who watched this. And I am Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Thank you.